Genesis 46, a stark decree echoes across the Fertile Crescent. Get yourselves down to Egypt. I will go down with you. A promise whispered in the face of famine. A journey into the unknown. A patriarch driven by desperation and divine assurance. But was this ancient migration a mere fable? A comforting tale spun from threads of wishful thinking? Or is there a tangible historical skeleton beneath the skin of Scripture? We embark on an investigation into the deep past, sifting through millennia of dust and debris, seeking the echoes of Jacob's descent into the land of the pharaohs. To understand if this pivotal moment in biblical narrative truly occurred, we must examine the evidence. A testament etched in stone, whispered in ancient papyri, and buried beneath the sands of time. The ancient Near East, a crossroads of empires and a cradle of civilization, stretched from the Anatolian highlands to the deserts of Arabia, crisscrossed by vital trade routes and migratory pathways that shaped human history. This was the stage upon which the epic drama of the Bible unfolded. Our investigation centers on the fertile Nile Delta, a region that has, in modern times, yielded astonishing archaeological revelations at sites like Tel el-Daba, identified by scholars as the ancient capital city of Avaris. This strategic location, at the confluence of Mesopotamian and Egyptian spheres of influence, makes it a prime candidate for understanding interactions between these powerful civilizations and the peoples who traversed between them. Prepare to embark on a visual journey as our animated 3D map traces the route from the arid landscapes of Canaan to the fertile black soil of the Nile. A journey that aligns with the biblical account of Jacob's family settling in Egypt. A journey that begins in the earliest narratives of humanity. Our chronological map unfurls, projecting backwards through the mists of time. Genesis places Jacob's migration squarely within the Middle Bronze Age, a period marked by significant cultural exchange and political shifts across the ancient world. While the biblical account traces a lineage from Adam through Abraham, culminating in Jacob, the specific period of this migration aligns with a broader global context. During this era, the powerful Mesopotamian city-states flourished. Minoan civilization thrived on Crete, and the Old Kingdom of Egypt was transitioning towards the subsequent intermediate period and the rise of the Middle Kingdom. This vast historical tapestry provides the backdrop against which we can place Jacob's move, a move that occurred approximately 3,800 years ago, long before the Exodus and the subsequent development of Israel as a nation, firmly rooting this narrative in a distinct and verifiable historical epoch. It establishes a deep historical resonance, connecting ancient patriarchal narratives to a grand, overarching timeline that extends to the coming of Christ and the present day. Genesis 46 recounts the momentous decision. Jacob, facing starvation in Canaan, is urged by his sons to relocate to Egypt, where Joseph, sold into slavery years earlier, has risen to a position of immense power. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you back again, and Joseph's hand will close your eyes. A poignant prophecy of reunion and eventual return. The biblical narrative describes Jacob's vast household, comprising 70 souls, making their journey. They are granted permission by Pharaoh, through Joseph, to settle in the fertile land of Goshen, a region known for its pasture lands, ideally suited for their flocks and herds. This settlement in a foreign land, under the protection of a powerful ruler, sets the stage for the subsequent growth of the Israelite people within Egypt, as foretold in the Abrahamic covenant. Excavations at Tel el-Daba, ancient Avaris. Our investigation begins on the ground amidst the sun-baked earth of the Nile Delta. The sprawling archaeological site of Tel el-Daba, identified by scholars as the ancient city of Avaris, the capital of the Hyksos rulers, provides a crucial geographical and cultural anchor for understanding Jacob's settlement. For decades, excavations here have unearthed the city that was, at its peak, a vibrant international metropolis. Tel el-Daba was strategically positioned at the northeastern edge of the Nile Delta, a gateway to both Egypt and the Levant, making it a prime candidate for understanding interactions between these powerful civilizations and the peoples who traversed between them. The sheer scale of the ancient city, with its extensive residential areas, temples, and administrative buildings, speaks to a period of significant foreign presence and influence. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of distinct residential quarters, some exhibiting architectural styles and artifact assemblages characteristic of Canaanite and Levantine populations. This suggests a historical reality where large groups of people from the region of Jacob's origin were indeed living in Egypt, particularly in the Delta during the Bronze Age. The presence of these foreign communities is not a matter of conjecture. It is laid bare in the stratigraphic layers of the tell, revealing distinct cultural imprints left by settlers who brought their own customs, building techniques, and pottery styles with them. The evidence points to a dynamic environment, not a static, homogeneous Egypt, but a land where foreign populations played a significant role. The layers at Tel el-Daba correspond to different historical periods, and scholars argue that the period of greatest Canaanite settlement, potentially encompassing the time frame of Jacob's move, is associated with the Second Intermediate Period, roughly 1700 to 1550 BC, the era of the Hyksos rule. This archaeological reality directly supports the biblical narrative of a patriarchal family settling in the fertile region of Goshen, which scholars generally equate with areas in or near the Nile Delta, where Tel el-Daba is located. The extensive evidence of foreign settlement at this capital city provides a compelling backdrop for the biblical account of Joseph's family being granted land in Egypt. It suggests that the social and political climate was conducive to such a settlement, and that the region was already accustomed to the presence of Semitic peoples from the Levant. The sheer density of findings at Tel el-Daba, meticulously documented by generations of archaeologists, paints a vivid picture of a cosmopolitan city that was a magnet for people seeking refuge, opportunity, or trade from the East. This is precisely the kind of environment into which Jacob and his family would have migrated, seeking sustenance and security during a time of famine in their homeland. This archaeological testimony offers a powerful physical foundation for the biblical story, demonstrating that the scenario described in Genesis was not an anomaly, but a reflection of known historical patterns of migration and settlement in the ancient Nile Delta. Wait, the evidence goes deeper. Papyrus Brooklyn 35.1446. Beyond the grand architectural remnants of Avaris, the sands have yielded more intimate glimpses into the lives of those who inhabited Egypt. Among these discoveries, the Papyrus Brooklyn 35.1446 stands as a remarkable, albeit debated, textual artifact that offers a fascinating connection to the biblical narrative of Jacob's descent into Egypt. This ancient document, dating to the late Second Intermediate Period or early New Kingdom, lists names of individuals, primarily women and children, along with their potential origins and descriptions of their labor or status. While not a direct mention of Jacob or his family, the papyrus contains several Semitic names that bear striking resemblances to names found in the patriarchal narratives of Genesis, including names that resonate with the tribal lineages associated with Jacob's descendants. What makes this papyrus particularly intriguing is its apparent function as a record of individuals, some of whom may have been captives or laborers. Scholars argue that the presence of such a list, compiled by Egyptian authorities, suggests a historical context where foreign individuals, including Semitic peoples, were present in Egypt in significant numbers, and that their presence was being officially documented. The specific section detailing individuals identified with a Semitic background, and the accompanying descriptions of their activities, provides a window into how such populations were perceived and managed by the Egyptian administration. Furthermore, the papyrus seems to allude to conditions that align with the biblical account of Joseph's family settling in Egypt, potentially as laborers or settlers granted land. While some academics suggest the papyrus might relate to different groups or time periods, others posit that the cumulative evidence of Semitic names and the context of foreign populations within Egypt makes it a corroborating detail. The very existence of such a list particularly one that includes names with clear Semitic roots, bolsters the historical plausibility of large groups of people from Canaan and the surrounding regions migrating to and residing in Egypt during the Bronze Age. The names, though requiring careful linguistic analysis, offer a potential echo of the diverse individuals who would have comprised a large, migrating clan or tribe, such as Jacob's family. The papyrus doesn't explicitly state Jacob's family arrived here. Rather, it provides textual evidence of a societal and administrative framework that was accustomed to, and actively recording, foreign Semitic individuals within Egypt during a period that overlaps with the biblical timeline for the Patriarch's migration. This documentary evidence, unearthed from the archives of antiquity, complements the archaeological findings from Tel el-Dab'a by offering a textual glimpse into the administrative reality of foreign populations in Egypt, lending further credence to the historical context of the biblical narrative. It invites us to consider the layers of historical reality that might lie beneath the sacred text. Consider this. You found a ledger today detailing the arrival of a specific group of people with familiar names. Wouldn't that spark your curiosity? Please like this video if you're finding this historical evidence compelling. Hyxocerra scarab seal. Our third pillar of evidence brings us to the tangible realm of artifacts, specifically, a class of objects that served as personal seals and amulets in ancient Egypt, scarabs. Among the thousands of scarabs unearthed from Egyptian soil, certain Hyxocerra examples bear inscriptions that researchers believe may offer a subtle yet significant confirmation of the biblical narrative surrounding Jacob's migration. The Hyksos, a group of foreign rulers of Semitic origin who controlled much of Egypt during the Second Intermediate Period, circa 1652–1550 BC, left a distinct archaeological footprint. Scarab seals from this era, particularly those found at sites like Tel el-Dab'a, often feature inscriptions that blend Egyptian iconography with Semitic linguistic elements or names. The specific scarab seals in question, which scholars refer to by their typological classifications rather than individual discoverers, display motifs and epigraphic styles that are characteristic of the Hyksos period. What is crucial is that some of these seals bear names or titles that align with the cultural milieu of the Levant, the homeland of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. While no scarab has been found with an inscription that definitively reads Jacob, certain seal impressions bear names or epithets that resonate with the linguistic, patterns, and cultural sphere of the patriarchal families described in Genesis. For instance, the presence of names that share phonetic similarities with biblical names or names of individuals associated with the patriarchal lineage, when found on seals dating to the period of Hyksos rule in Egypt, provides a layer of forensic evidence. This evidence suggests that individuals bearing such names, or whose cultural background was rooted in the same Semitic traditions as the patriarchs, were present in Egypt during the time frame suggested by the biblical chronology for Jacob's migration. The scarab seal, as a personal item of great significance, implies a level of established presence and social standing for its owner. Therefore, the discovery of seals with Semitic affiliations within the Hyksos layers of Tel el-Dab'a, a city strongly linked to foreign settlement and rule, lends forensic weight to the notion that people from Jacob's background were indeed in Egypt, interacting within the ruling elite or merchant classes of that era. These are not mere coincidences. They are small, tangible pieces of the past that, when viewed in aggregate with other evidence, speak to a historical reality congruent with the biblical account. The forensic examination of these seals, through paleography and stylistic analysis, allows scholars to date them and assess their cultural origins, providing a material connection to the historical period and geographical region of the biblical narrative. Subscribe to Faith and Facts to continue exploring the historical evidence behind biblical accounts. Our three pillars of evidence converge. The archaeological bedrock of Tel el-Dab'a, revealing extensive foreign settlement in the Nile Delta. The textual whispers of Papyrus Brooklyn 35.1446, documenting Semitic individuals within Egypt. and the forensic touch of Hyxoceras scarab seals, bearing names and styles resonant with the patriarchal homeland. Each piece, examined independently, offers a compelling insight. Together, they construct a formidable case for the historical plausibility of Jacob's migration to Egypt. The evidence doesn't demand a blind leap of faith, but invites a considered assessment of historical data. It suggests that the biblical narrative of Jacob's move is not an isolated legend, but is interwoven with the broader fabric of Bronze Age Near Eastern history. This ancient journey, fraught with peril and promise, serves as a foundational event, shaping the destiny of a people and echoing through millennia. As we uncover these layers of the past, we find that the stories we cherish are often grounded in a reality far more concrete than we might have imagined. A reality that invites us to see the divine narrative playing out across the grand stage of human history.